Hello and welcome back to the County Chat channel. Today I'm going to be doing a quick instant reaction on the news that the Kookaburra Ball is going to be scrapped for the County Championship in the coming years after this year, effectively into 2026 and onwards. Of course, if you don't know much about this sort of news or effectively what it even is, the Kookaburra Ball is the ball used in Australia, and after the review of the 2021-2022 Ashes, where we lost handedly 4-0, England this is, Andrew Strauss put into play that there should be some Kookaburra balls used in the county championship to kind of prepare English cricketers for the challenges of international cricket and specifically touring Australia in the future. It started with 2 rounds to begin with, and it expanded from 2024 to 2025 to be 4 rounds of the county championship. It has been widely criticised, I would think it would be safe to say, by both kind of, I guess, maybe older heads within county cricket and, to be honest, I guess fans. I think fans of county cricket, probably who really watch every week, and someone like myself, the Kookaburra Ball round have always been incredibly boring unless you just love watching batting, which, I mean, to be fair, some case I do. But, it was a lot of crazy scores, a lot of big ones. Surrey scoring 820 was the kind of the headline news. They scored that at the Oval. But that round where they scored 820, it was the most first inning runs scored ever in a round of county championship figures, I think was a stat I saw which came out at the time. So it's been a very, very hotly contested thing, and it's been interesting. I've learned more and more about it this summer. I spoke to Bertie, who came on the channel, and he's played for England under-19s and played for Sussex in recent years, and he has plenty of sort of knowledge and experience that I don't have. But he was actually kind of slightly pro Kookaburra Ball, and he's a spinner, and it brought into the game spinners. So I guess it's just there's a little bit of an introduction, and we'll get into it. And it's hopefully not going to be too long of a video. I could see myself chatting about it for longer and longer. But basically, there's two sides of the story, and it's an interesting one because I think it's a really on the nose topic to what is the county championship meant to be for England, with all the selection criteria and stuff I spoke about in the England Lions episode I just sort of released about the squad that was selected there. That there's a lot of this kind of what does the county championship actually do for England cricket, I guess, and it's becoming a big issue in some ways. So I guess I started with the kind of cons in a way. I think there's so much more discourse and a lot of people being basically anti-county championship using the Kookaburra Ball, which I totally get, and I has always been my default. Sort of before I started doing this channel and maybe looking into this stuff a bit more like analytically and a bit more academically, I guess. I was always massively against it. It just seemed like every time they used the Kookaburra Ball, there was bad cricket being played, or not bad cricket, just not as interesting cricket, less interest between bat and ball, and all of the kind of things that can make 4-day cricket boring, and that's coming from someone who absolutely loves the longer format of the game. So it's an interesting one to look at. But some quotes that came out sort of in the last few years from some big names, I think maybe the kind of headline news one that kind of came out a lot was Alex Stewart, who has been the sort of director of Surrey's cricket in the last sort of, I think probably the last 10 years at this point, as kind of the mastermind in charge of their real dominance. And he pointedly said it is the worst decision ever, in a quote, which is, I guess, as strong as you can probably get from someone in the county championship. Darren Lehman, who's been the head coach of Northants over the last few years, and obviously former disgraced head coach of Australia, but he obviously would know a hell of a lot about the Kookaburra Ball, and he said this Kookaburra Ball is for Australian conditions on wickets that are harder and that have got some carry. Again, basically making the sort of observation that the wickets in England don't carry enough for it to be worth it, and therefore it just makes it very easy for batting. Of course, that has been really, really proven to be the case. There's been some incredibly big scores. As I mentioned earlier, 820 scored by Surrey. Warwickshire in one of the rounds this year scored 679. I think both Nottinghamshire and Sussex both went past 500 in a game. Worcestershire, who again had their batting struggles throughout this year, that was one of the games they scored a big 600, and Adam Hose and Jake Libby both got 200 plus scores in that game. I guess a lot of proof, let's just say, in recent years, that the kind of Kookaburra Ball has been a bad look for county championship cricket, maybe making it less interesting and less of a draw. Um, this year, for example, I did a bit of my own number crunching. 58% of the Kookaburra Ball matches ended in draws. And, I don't even always think a draw is a boring end result, which has, of course, kind of been the big thing that Bazball has brought into English cricket, that it is a boring result. But in my opinion, it isn't always. But I think what was the key thing about this little statistical analysis I did by just adding up all the draws to make it 58% was a lot of those draws were not even close. It was like, two teams had batted for basically 2 days and not the fourth innings had never really come into question, like whether or not there would be a winner or a loser. It was just a draw from almost day one. I think that's what makes a draw boring, in my opinion. It's not really the fact that it happens, it's more the fact that there's no, everyone knows where the game is going before the game's almost kind of even close to finished. So yeah, there's been a lot of negatives about it. I think basically I'd say seam bowlers and bowlers in general have just been like, there's no reward for bowling kind of a consistent line or length, and you kind of can't get any reward. But the alternative view would obviously be like it drills in that you can't err from your line, and you don't get away with basically bowling a wide swinging length as a seam bowler. Bertie, again, from that conversation I had with him, brought into something I didn't really know about it, was it's probably better for spin bowlers. And one of the big things they brought in it for was because it thought it would bring more games to the fourth day, which it did, obviously, as I mentioned, with the 58% draw rate. But it kind of didn't clearly have the effect I guess they were hoping. I didn't think there was any big wicket-taking performances with spinners, unless I'm sort of blanking on one, which is very, very possible. But that didn't happen as much as they wanted it to. Bertie mentioned things about like it has more stitching, so it does grip more and things like that. And I'm sure if you went into the percentage of wickets taken by spin, it probably did go up. But I think it was overshadowed by the dominance of batting. I think a lot of people would say with the cons of it, it's just not English cricket. It's not what the cricket is meant to be. And it's not how the county championship is meant to sort of look like, I guess, in many ways, which I guess is a bit more like of an opinion of like it should just stay the same because it's always been that way, which is not something I always ascribe to. But I think it's a kind of fair enough one in this case because effectively it was making a bad product, and the county championship is hardly something which draws many eyes in any way. So anything that can kind of make it less of a good product, I guess, is a bad thing. And I think I totally kind of agree with that. So, on the whole, I was kind of against it in a lot of ways. I think I was also not as against it as maybe other people, and especially the more I got explained and more I understood about the kind of ins and outs. And I guess it also comes down to how do you view county championship cricket. So I guess we're kind of switching from the con side of it to the pro side argument of it. Rob Key, of course, was a massive proponent of it when he came in to taking over basically from Andrew Strauss. He said stuff like, I'd use the Kookaburra all the time throughout the summer, and I think England cricket would be much better for it. Because something that I think is a very fair point is that county championship is kind of a bit at risk, and I think people are worried about where does it place within the future. And I think if you look at England's selection, it's not clearly been county championship performance making any kind of impact over whether or not you're going to play for England in the future. So say, the England Lions squad, as I mentioned, it was a really good example of that. There's so many very good county cricketers who had very good seasons who had no looking at all. And there's some county cricketers who were playing county cricket but didn't play well or haven't played that much who got picked for this England Lions squad. So basically proving that they don't really view the county championship as a linear progression towards being an international cricketer. And that was the whole idea of what the Kookaburra Ball would do, is it would almost bring out the blood from the stone of the kind of cricketers who can be successful internationally, may well show themselves in the Kookaburra Ball fixtures. Stuff like consistency of line, consistency of length, not needing to swing it as much, elite pace, elite spin, elite drift, all of these kind of things that you're looking for in international cricketers that can actually go on, rather than consistency. And I guess consistency, or not, maybe not even consistency is the wrong word, but maybe just people on a slower kind of pitches who can move it around loads. So say, your Ben Sandersons, the kind of 70 mile an hour Darren Stevens of yesteryear, who could bowl about 70 mile an hour and move it a lot and take a lot of wickets, which I think all of us know would never ever translate to international success. So the idea being you kind of want to get rid of it. I remember seeing another person who kind of said it would, if you're going to use it all the time. I think it was Samit Patel. I think he was in a podcast, and I saw him say I don't understand why you do it a bit of the time. You'd either do it none of the time or all the time. And I think that's really hits the nail on the head, because I think the reality is that the ECB trialled it effectively in these last 4 years. It didn't work. All the counties hated it, and it produced bad cricket. And again, I keep saying it, bad cricket. Boring cricket is maybe the better phrase. But the reality is what they're actually getting at is a really important issue for county cricket, is that if county cricket no longer produces England cricketers, then almost what is the agency of county cricket? What does it produce? What does it lead to? And I'm obviously someone who wants to keep county cricket in with all of my heart, and I've got a lot of passion about it. But you're kind of trying to find, for England's future, how it fits into the kind of bracket effectively. And of course, there's still players who come through and really perform well in county cricket and then make their way into English cricket. So maybe it's an overreaction from the last few years and selection status from Bazball. But, people like Shoaib Bashir and a lot of other cricketers, Zach Crawley, who have not produced well over periods of time in county cricket, but still get backed for England cricket because of their international kind of things, hitting the ball high on the top of the bounce, spinning the ball hard, having big hands and turning it and getting bounced for Bashir and Crawley respectively. It's things like that don't almost reflect in county championship performance. So for me, I guess I'm saying this in quite a roundabout way, the more I thought about it, the more I realised, actually, if you're going to do Kookaburra ball, you need to basically give it a good amount of time so that counties kind of prepare for it and start picking players differently for it. But also you need to do it more of the time. So it's a funny one where it's kind of like they've not doubled down and they've just, they've folded after it's got a bit difficult, which I kind of totally get, because I guess if county cricketers and county, the PCA and the heads of the counties are basically getting at ECB saying this is ridiculous, which I think in many ways it was, it then leads to, I guess the ECB and Rob Key were like, it's not really affecting me, which I guess is almost as worrying as anything, if that makes sense. He put it to a vote and he said, I'm not sure, what do you guys think? And they basically all said we should get rid of it. And I guess Rob Key maybe looks at it, it's like, well, I wasn't picking players from the county championship anyway, so why would I care if you don't want to use the Kookaburra ball? Of course, I'm extrapolating here, and of course, I'm going off on a bit of almost a worried tangent. But I guess it comes from a player, a person who really cares about the Kookaburra ball, really cares about the county championship, and really cares about its agency and its future in being something to do with English cricket and the development of English players. And I think it has the potential to. I think that how you get it to be in a situation where England players are being picked because of their county championship success is by making it as much like international cricket as you can. So hence why for a bit I was kind of against more overseas when it went from 1 to 2. But then I was like, actually, if this makes the standard just generally better, the players are going to be playing better players and getting better and better and better. I guess it's starting to look at county cricket like it's how does it produce England cricketers versus county cricket as its own entity. I guess that's where the debate almost falls into, and I think this is a bit of a drop in the ocean of what the kind of content I'll probably end up talking about this more and more and more, because I think it's really interesting. I think it's really on the nose of a lot of things that county cricket kind of lends itself towards. Again, I guess I'm not really falling on either side of it. I guess I'm neither saying pro nor con, because I've sort of shown both sides of it in a brief thing here. I guess I'm just presenting both sides of it, and I'm interested to see what people generally think. Hope and leave a comment or anything like that. But what it brings in other people, because I think what it brings in me is a kind of, where does England cricket go for county championship success? And I think it's more and more that county championship success doesn't really matter, and that worries me, I guess. But I guess I also understand it. And if the Kookaburra ball doesn't work in England, maybe it's better for like pre-season tours, say to all the cricketers, all the counties when they go on their pre-season tour, can you just use a Kookaburra ball when you're doing your squad matches or when you're playing against X, Y or Z county or state from around the world? Durham went down to Zimbabwe this year, and this year just gone, and various counties go on their pre-season tours. I know. So I guess it's like maybe that's the way ECB needs to look at it, is maybe use the Kookaburra balls and doing stuff like that. Because again, it just all falls in, and then you go to the international cricket narrative, and I'm jumping around here a lot, so I realise I'm doing a bit of a ramble. But the whole, it's becoming easier and easier and harder to win away from home and win at home. So, England do very well at home with the Duke's ball and all of that. Versus, Australia do very well in Australia using Kookaburra ball, in India and so on and so forth. So I guess the movement back towards Dukes is basically a movement back towards being like good at home and being good at what we do. And I guess that's where the worry falls in, because that is the exact attitude which got us to the place England were at maybe at the end of 21-22. Anyway, there's a lot of sort of throwing out a lot of questions and a lot of thoughts. I guess this is why I sort of preface this by saying this is just my initial thoughts on quite a big deal happening in county cricket, and a big deal for England cricket in a lot of ways. So yeah, let me know what you think, in comments, or send me a DM, or I'm very interested to hear any discourse that people have and thoughts that people have on this issue. But I just haven't seen much content about it, and I thought I had some thoughts, so I thought I may as well put something out there. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you've watched the whole way through, please give it a like and a subscribe, and I really appreciate it. It keeps me going and keeps the channel growing, which has been great in the last few sort of weeks and months. It's been really happening. Some really exciting content on the way. Got some more great people to have on the In Conversation With kind of series, if you will, coming up. So yeah, stay tuned for more great content here on the County Chat. I hope you enjoyed, and peace.